Hello everyone, and welcome to Memory Matters for All Ages. I'm Janelle Nichols from the Gables of Hudson Assisted Living Residence. Once again, I want to welcome Catherine Kilpatrick, speech pathologist, author, national speaker. She also works with individuals, and I know that the caregivers are very near and dear to her heart. I want you to share a little bit about the holidays. The holidays are upon us, I can't believe it. But share a little bit about how you can help folks that live with or work with someone with dementia or a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or mild cognitive impairment, how you can help them through the holidays. The holidays are stressful enough.
You think?
Without dealing, I know for ladies it is, but without dealing with someone with these issues. Share a little bit about them.
I don't even know where to begin.
I know.
There is just so much. I guess I'd like to begin with, we're going to cover some basics to get them on people's radar screen.
All right.
And we often refer to my website, but I have elder care link blogs I've done, and there is a whole series of articles and blogs on all of these topics in depth. So if anybody's really searching for some information, they could go to that. It will be in the blog that I'm creating with direct links if people want to sign up for that.
Very good.
So,
since you mentioned that, I do want to take a moment and tell folks, watch at the end of the program. We've got our websites there. There is a link on Kathy's website to her blog. A wealth of information, much more than we have time to talk about here. So watch at the end of the program and get on her website.
I guess what I'd like to mention is what the situation with my mom. She was a person that wasn't necessarily in love with the holidays, and particularly Christmas before. As she started to have a little bit more difficulty with her memory, I decided that I would come in 4 or 5 days before Christmas, and the family at home would help put some little decorations in her apartment or in her assisted living. And then I just kind of was her shadow and took her to events, and even prior to that helped her with a form Christmas card letter, because she really didn't want to and was having trouble, with writing, but even also with sentence structure and some spelling. And she was a perfectionist. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
And so, we did that, and then I would get some little presents for everybody. And then when she got her presents at Christmas, it was writing down what she got, because she always wanted to do her thank you notes. So I kind of came in for like 3 or 4 years and was there to make the transition and the holiday at least more relaxing for her, where she didn't have to navigate all the activities that were going on.
I am nothing like your mom. I love the holidays.
Me
In fact,
too.
My friends make fun of me. I love the holidays so much.
Yeah.
But you can imagine, in the assisted living realm, that I've met all kinds of families with all kinds of viewpoints of the holidays, all different traditions. I'm dealing with a family now. There are 10 children in the family.
Oh, wow.
I unfortunately have seen families make more mistakes than do things right. The other complication is people are coming in from out of town for the holidays, and you have someone that has not seen mom or dad for how many months. They have a whole different viewpoint of what's been going on.
Absolutely.
And then you have someone that's been here in the trenches day after day. So I've seen a lot of holidays fall apart, blow up.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of mistakes made. Give us, as you always do, my favorite thing about you, give us some practical tips.
Okay.
Give us some strategies.
Well, I'm going to give some heads up first.
Okay.
And I think the big thing is noticing that maybe your loved one or friend or neighbor is getting overwhelmed. And this is where we always back up to what was it like before, because like with my mom, it was always that way, not necessarily overwhelmed and couldn't navigate the meals and everything, but in terms of some of the traditions and all. And so there's a variety of factors, and then here's what happens, and we've had previous programs where we talk about there's too much going on, there's overload, there's busyness. So what might be a calm household all of a sudden has generations coming and going, which can then accentuate some of the anxiety, which can lead to some of the difficult behaviors. And we have family dynamics all the time where we can end up with difficult behaviors for whatever reasons, or frustrations or expectations. I mean, that's a big thing. And think about it, you know, the meals, the cards, the decorations, and then the other part is, after it's all over, how do you undo it all when this person maybe has lost some of their organizational and problem-solving skills? So that's another thing. There's also the safety risks, and so you're bringing people in, and I always talk about the visual aspect, because then you've got the little kids and the toys, or you're going to someone's house with the pets, and then maybe someone has the oxygen cord. We really need to kind of step back and see how to simplify. You know, we want to honor the traditions that we've had, but it may also be time to make some new ones, and to ask that person, how do you feel about this? And, you know, actually pre-planning should happen in July and August, when maybe families are going to kind of come in at different time spans.
I am so glad you mentioned that, because while you were talking, I jotted this down to ask you a question. Traditions. Now, at my house, we have traditions, and they are they're carved in stone. And my daughter, when she comes home, she expects those traditions, and we do them. But when you're at a point where a loved one's cognitive situation is different, would you agree that you've got to be flexible?
Absolutely.
You might not be able to go tobogganing on Christmas morning, or you might not be able to do this or that. You have to be flexible, and you can start new traditions.
Yeah, and they can be as meaningful. We always went to 11 o'clock service on Christmas Eve, and I loved it because I went back home, so I got to see all my friends and all their parents from when I grew up. So, I mean, it was just a bonus for me. It was too hard. So then we started going to the 4 o'clock service, and we did that for probably 2 years. I didn't see anyone I knew because it was just a different group of folks. And then eventually we just created our own little tradition down the road. And what happens is often you eliminate some of the stress and the difficult behaviors and things like that are going on. So we've got to watch that. Also, maybe there's food restrictions. So if you've got someone with dementia who the caregiver is really good about not having sugary things around, or someone that stopped drinking and now there's alcohol and sugar and things that they could choke on, you know, we don't think of those things. And that's why I said I have all those articles and blogs on all these different things that are going on. And just to briefly touch on this, because this is only a 15-minute show and I could spend 15 minutes on each segment. If you're traveling by car and you're going a long distance, you know, do you make frequent rest stops just to make them so you don't end up in between rest areas and not have a place to stop? You have someone with, you know, cognitive difficulties who then may get really agitated. Do you bring the appropriate snacks? So that might work out better. Travel by air. Unbelievably challenging these days, and I've seen people where, you know, they are overwhelmed and they're changing planes, and then the plane gets canceled or there's storms. Well, if you've got 2 older adults, maybe one with some cognitive impairments, someone with some frailty but cognitively pretty good, and they're traveling, we have to look ahead to these situations. And it may be this upcoming holiday is the time, if you are concerned about someone, to just start paying attention a little bit, because as you and I both know, this is often when there are more referrals to the doctor and to the geriatric assessment programs after the holidays, because all of a sudden people are seeing some changes that are going on.
Absolutely. We see that in assisted living. You would think that in the cold, dreary month of January that no one would be moving into an assisted living at that time. But that's when that's one of our busiest months because of the points you made. People come home, they haven't seen their loved one, they notice these changes, and then they take steps. Kathy, you brought up a couple things, and again,
we could go on forever on this topic because of both of our experiences, home health and assisted living.
And I have worked with families. I know one time one of my coworkers literally ran to my office. He said, "You've got to come now. You've got to get down there. It's out of control." And I went down, and the whole family, everybody was in tears. Everybody was in tears except me because of the stress of the holiday and this family member insisting on this. And I think you brought up several points. First of all, I never would have thought about the food. the food thing. And of course, that's another part of our traditions. All right, we have certain foods that we eat at the holidays, but also the alcohol with maybe new medications that you don't think about. So I think common sense is a key to this. Also the travel, I thought that was very interesting. You may need to go by car, maybe flying is out now. So as you say, you've got to start thinking in the fall about how you're going to handle
But sometimes
holidays.
you don't know what to think about until you actually see it fall apart.
Or you don't realize what point you're at with this family member.
And I've got a couple of tips I can include that might, preserve what's meaningful. So we still did some kind of church, religious, simplified version as time went on. Mom couldn't do her Christmas cards with the letters, but we did the form letter, and when she could, she wrote a little note at the bottom. So, those were important traditions, and I think she was at the point where maybe it was or maybe it wasn't, but as the oldest daughter and our connection being those things, it was important to me to do that for her, at least at the level she was at, which was pretty high level, but she couldn't navigate some of that. Monitor the situation, and I often suggest, one of the things I would tend to do is I'd be the person with her all the time, making sure everything was okay. But, if somebody else is on the same page with you, you say, okay, I'll take the morning shift, and then you can go visit the relatives, and then you take an hour or so, and so you kind of balance that out. And then, again, as we talked about, the geriatric assessment can be a really important piece to that. It may be that the older adult is saying that they feel that they need to make some changes, but it may not be in that holiday situation that you do anything other than observe and then talk later, because there's already a tremendous amount of stress that's going on. So, and remember, each person sees it differently. They have a different perspective. Mine was, I saw things that nobody else saw because this is what I do for a living, not to be critical, but I'm looking at safety and enjoyment, type things. So,
well, to speak to that point, you were giving that example of that tradition that you sat down with your mom and you said that was important to you, but you had adjusted it so that mom could participate. I think a lot of family members make the mistake of not adjusting. We're going to do this. We've always done this. They're not taking this loved one into consideration, that things have to be tweaked, things have to be changed, and common sense is truly the norm.
I want to take a second to tell a cute story. I always went out to my brother and sister-in-laws to spend Christmas, and I would stay with Mom. But her mom had Alzheimer's disease, and I can remember early on one Christmas she had a separate kitchen downstairs, so she was sending her mom down to make the sausage bread, the Italian sausage bread. And I'm going, Jenny, I'm going down, or she needs some supervision so that somebody can take her through the steps.
Never dawned on her.
Because she always did it, and I think that's what happens to all of us. I caught the Christmas card thing because I do, she was proofreading books and stuff for me. So
common sense is the norm. Think ahead. Kathy, give us our thought for the week, our focus.
Basically, observe if an aging parent has some different needs. Ask them. Sometimes we just kind of go in and bulldoze and do our thing. I know one family member came in before to decorate for Christmas, another to undecorate after. One grandchild flew out to accompany the grandparents out so that they could be there, but make sure that the transition, not everybody doesn't have the means for that, but it's something to consider. So I guess I'll give you our little quote here and see if I can get this pronunciation correctly. Opportunities are often the things you haven't noticed the first time around. Catherine Deneuve.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. Very, very good pointers. The holidays are here. They're stressful for anyone. Families, common sense. Think ahead. Talk. Ask your loved one. Thank you so much for joining us. Watch at the end for more information. Now go make it a great day.